Professor Yanni Rousseau speaking to us a little bit earlier. Let's get the views now of Neil Roets from Debt Rescue SA joining us. Hello to you, Neil. So I no doubt everyone in debt, I'm sure it's the majority of people, keeping a close eye on this rates announcement later today. Let's, if we can, imagine the rate does go up by 25 basis points. What does that mean for someone who's trying to pay off debt?
Good morning. Yes, the situation currently with the finances of consumers in South Africa are not looking good. So if the interest rate does increase, it's going to have a devastating effect on consumers because it affects them in various areas of their lives. It affects them in the sense that they're going to pay more for their loans. Even their landlords are now going to pay more on their loans, and therefore rental will be increased. There's all kinds of places where this will affect consumers. And I think because of the fact that consumers are struggling already with their finances and the fact that COVID has made it so much worse, and now this on top of it is just going to be the thing that causes a lot of people to just become over-indebted as well.
I imagine it's a very easy time for people to become financially depressed. I mean, we have COVID-19, which has affected jobs. We have the increase in fuel prices, which is affecting people's ability to get to work in order to make money. Now we have an interest rate hike potentially as well. So everything is just going up. And this is why I wanted to talk to you this morning, Neil. What happens when somebody is in such a bad position that they simply don't even have the money to pay off their debt, even if they went, for example, to someone like you at Debt Rescue SA? What if their situation is so tenuous that there's no way out for them? What do you tell them?
Well, you're 100% right. There's millions of people in South Africa currently sitting with that problem, where they're just becoming more and more over-indebted. And we're very fortunate in South Africa to have the National Credit Act, which is a piece of legislation that provides relief through debt counseling. And it's the best piece of legislation of its kind in the world. So we're very fortunate to have that. But what you're asking now is that what if the situation is so dire that even we cannot help them? Because we must remember, for us to assist people, they do need an income. So we do get people approaching us from time to time who just do not have an income at all. But then there's still help. There's various remedies that we can use. One of the remedies is a voluntary sequestration, which means that if a consumer does not have any income anymore, but he's sitting with all these loads of debt, we can place him under voluntary sequestration, and therefore all his debt at the end of the day gets written off, and he can start at a clean slate, so to speak. Yes, he will be noted at the credit bureaus as being insolvent and for a couple of years until such time that he has rehabilitated. And that can happen as soon as 5 years. So there's always things that people can do. And you know what? I hear terrible stories of people reaching this point and doing unquestionable things to themselves because of the fact that they do not know that there is help out there. So it's very important for people to know that whether your situation feels dire to you or not, there is always help out there. So you should always contact a debt counselor when you find yourself in financial difficulties, whether you are in a situation where you just became over-indebted, or whether you're in a situation where you feel like you've got all kinds of debt, hundreds of thousands of rands of debt, but no income. We can always still help.
And that's such an important message as well, as I think it is starting to get so desperate for some people in the country. You know, they've probably gone as far as selling off cars, perhaps renting out their house, cutting back on essentials. Never mind the luxuries, Neil. Essentials like car insurance, medical aid, and of course we know how that can catch you out later if anything was to happen. Perhaps I leave this as my last question to you. So that was the extreme side of someone who is in hundreds of thousands of rands worth of debt. But then you're going to get those that if we have an interest rate hike today, Neil, it could put them into an uncomfortable red position, maybe can't quite pay back that credit card loan. They're not indebted, they're not on the red list, but it's going to start getting very, very uncomfortable. What is the advice you give? At what is the line where someone is just having a couple of tough months, or they need to get hold of you at Debt Rescue SA? Where's that line drawn?
Well, it's always important to, first of all, have a written budget ready and make sure that that budget makes sense, because that budget would tell you whether you are over-indebted or not. And if the budget tells you that you've got more income than expenses, then you are in the green, then you're right. But a lot of people do live on the knife's edge, as you just pointed out. And these increases can cause a consumer to become over-indebted. And what should he do then? Should he wait until he is defaulted on all his credit agreements, and should he wait that it carries on for months on end before he contacts us for help? No. He should immediately, when you realize that the first month that you cannot get out with your money, and that means with your income, you should be able to pay for all your living expenses, which means your rental, your food, your school fees, insurance, and all these things. And you should be able to pay 100% of all your credit installments, your personal loans, credit cards, home loan, and so on. And once you reach the point where there's 1 month that you could not make all these payments, then you're ready. Then for debt counseling, then you should approach a debt counselor, because a debt counselor can assist you to easily get out of that situation, rather than to wait that you are very over indebted, and then it's going to take much longer to get you back to financial health.
Yeah, and you're going to be in a lot more trouble with all the creditors as well. It's always good to have you on, Neil Roets from Debt Rescue SA. So for those in debt, obviously we are hoping there won't be an increase in interest rates, but we wait to see. But please, the important part that Neil says, if you do find yourself in this situation, maybe it might be worse by the end of today, get hold of an organisation. Debt Rescue SA is a very good example. Neil, thank you. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.